Good afternoon and welcome to Turbo Tortoise Tech. If you're new here, I'm Reese of the 4-piece variety Orgy Triple XL, and it is not a Wednesday but a Tuesday, and so things are going to be a little bit different this week because I'm going to be doing some laptops for a change. We're going to be giving you 6 of the very best in laptop suggestions, and there's something here for every palette and budget. If you want to do just gaming, or if you want to do some development cycle / gaming, or just straight up powerhouse CPU development type stuff, then there's a little something here for you. Starting off at number 6, it's our first Lenovo IdeaPad Gaming 3. I really love this chassis. The bang for buck on this unit right now is kind of astronomically good. This is an entry-level gaming notebook, so that's primary focus. You're going to be able to set medium to high settings for most games, and really your limitation is the 4 gigs of video memory that you find on the 3050. When I did a review on this, I found that the core actually had more to give, but you just couldn't run the textures higher because of the limited video memory, where games don't really have that issue. Like in most of your esports titles, your League, your Dota, your Valo, and your CS, you're not really going to have an issue there, are you? It's got an 11th gen i5. It's a little bit older. It's a quad-core 8-thread, so it's not going to give you uber gaming performance, but with 16 gig RAM and a 512 gig SSD for 13,399 with a 120Hz IPS panel as well. So it's got a nice monitor. The chassis is pretty decent on these. All around, it's what we would call good enough. At number 5, it's a Victus. It's kind of the same, but just more, especially where the processor is concerned. That's the big upgrade you're getting over here. The RAM and the SSD and such at this price is pretty much exactly the same. It's got a slightly better monitor as well. But the big uplift here is going to come from having 8 cores and 12 threads. So if you need more, like for development and Adobe Suite, etc., and for rendering, on the go, then this is probably going to be quite a lot better. It's got a 4 gig video memory as well. The chassis is a bit better built. It's a bit more robust, a bit better in every single way, but mostly what you're going for here is that processing performance. At number 4, we have another incredibly good bang for buck gaming laptop. The Ryzen 5 7500 doesn't have the best single core performance. I would say it's probably even slightly behind that 12450H that we saw before. But it's got really good single core performance, and it's got 16 gigs RAM and a 512 gig SSD and a 120Hz display. This is a little bit of a newer version of the previous chassis, so everything's dialed up a touch, but this is the 4056 gig, and having tested this now versus like previous gen, it just absolutely destroys it. You're going to get access to DLSS 3, which is like really nice to have as well. So where games use DLSS, you just set it to balanced, or quality mode, you basically get no performance degradation. Well, actually you get a performance increase with no visual degradation. Now DLSS 3 is very good. Having a 4070 in my main PC and using it for some time, basically since Diablo 4 launch, I've noticed that the DLSS 3 is a lot better. It's got Wi-Fi 6, it's got Bluetooth, it's got all of the good defaults that you want as well. Then at number 3, kicking things up a notch. By notch, I mean considerably. You might want to look at this with 32 gigs RAM if you want to use it for development stuff, because the 7940HS is a lot more convincing. It's quite a big one. It's 8 core 16 thread, 16 gig RAM, 1 TB NVMe in this one, and it's a 17 inch, so it's nice big 1080p 144Hz IPS display with a 4078 gig. Now the 3070 Ti and the 4070 are kind of the same, except where DLSS 3 is concerned and overall power usage. The 4070 is quite a lot more efficient in its usage of power, so you can actually get more to the CPU simultaneously. So this would be kind of an extreme development or just really power gaming notebook. At number 2, it's another IdeaPad Gaming 3. It is once again of the newer generation, so it's a little bit updated and such on the chassis. It's a 12450H, so that same 8 core 12 thread part with 16 gig RAM, 512 gig SSD, a WXGA, so 1920 by 1200, which is kind of interesting, but 165Hz IPS display, and with a 3066 gig, it's kind of convincing at the price point for processing and for gaming. This is like more in between, I would say. It's a little bit less gaming than the RTX 4050 6GB. That would probably give a bit better overall gaming performance, but with this 12450H, it's just got a little bit more strong punch in it, and that's why I just had to put it up higher, because the price point at this, what you're getting at this price is kind of amazing. From that, you get a couple nice extra freebies and stuff with this as well, but this is really like a little bit more of a crossover, especially with this very interesting display that it's got, 165 hertz IPS at 1920 by 1200. You can see it's a little bit more like an in-betweener from that perspective, but there's nothing with this price and this spec. And finally, the number one notebook on the Evetech store right now, it had to be this absolutely disgusting Asus TUF A15. It's a 7800H, which is pretty strong. It's the generational improvements are real in those, but I've set it with 32 gigs RAM, the 512 gig SSD, a 144 hertz display once again, but a 3078 gig on this for 23,000 Rand is kind of nuts. It's got a chiclet RGB backlit keyboard, which is, if you've watched a review on this, it's more of an R than an RGB. It's got one like RGB mode, but it's got Bluetooth, it's got Wi-Fi, it's got gigabit ports for LAN and your microphone head jack combo, etc. But this processor plus this GPU at this price point is kind of disgusting, and it's going to give you easily the best gaming performance per Rand spent out of the list that I've shown you so far. And then, my friends, are your top 6 gaming notebooks on the Evetech store right now. We'll do this at least on a monthly basis. I've kind of been skipping over these guys, and a lot of us need that mobile power. And so hopefully there's a spec in here for you that comes up to your budget, where you can at least even just play games like 13,000 Rand, which is kind of nuts, or get seriously good premium gaming experience for 23,000 Rand, all on a mobile platform. Kind of begs belief these days. Gaming notebooks have come a long way in the last, say, 5-6 years. It's actually been more than impressive, honestly. And yeah, I've got a couple lined up for review, which are going to be coming at you guys in the next couple of weeks. So until then, hope you guys stay safe, keep well. If you have enjoyed this, please do us up with a like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the flip side.